Hi everybody, it's Onyx here, and today I am bringing you part 1 of What If Deku Had Sunshine. As before we get into this video, I'd like to bring up that we have a personal Discord server that is linked down in the description as always. If you guys would actually like to join that, I do daily or weekly shoutouts on my channel depending when I upload. As for the person who wants the shout out, you'll get it at the end of the video, promise you that, dude. As for the people who want to support the channel, we have a Patreon in the description down below where you guys can force me to make what ifs. And also, if you guys don't want to donate to that, you guys can also support me another way by subscribing to the channel. It helps me know if you guys like my content and makes me more motivated to actually do more videos like this. Without further ado, let's begin. We're going to begin our what if off with the perspective of Izuku Midoriya and his parents. Izuku was sat in the quirk doctors getting examined and more examined. The doctors started to realize there was something wrong with him, but they just took it off as something else. What the doctors didn't realize, however, Izuku was more stronger than what they fathomed, but they didn't test him on physical strength, so there's their error. Izuku walked out of the quirk doctor to be greeted with his parents being excited for if he had a quirk or not, as the doctors just explained to Inko and Hisashi that their tests were inclusive, that they don't know what quirk or what power Izuku will have, as they just told them to come back at a later date. When Izuku is a little bit more developed, they explained. Hisashi and Inko both left disappointed that they didn't find out what kind of quirk their son was going to get. The next day, Izuku would have arrived at preschool seeing Bakugo showing off his quirk. "Whoa, Kachan, those are cool," Izuku explained. As Bakugo just said, "Okay, Izuku, what type of quirk do you have?" Bakugo explained. "Well, I went to the doctors and they told me to come back at a later date because I wasn't fully developed for a quirk yet," he said. "Well, then you probably end up quirkless then, Izuku," he said, with Izuku sulking a tiny bit. We didn't realize, however, the room started to get a little bit hotter than usual. "Why do I feel really sweaty?" Bakugo said, as everyone else in that room started to get more and more sweatier. "What the hell?" they all said, with Izuku just standing there in confusion. What's happening?" he said, as most of the students in there passed out from heat exhaustion as all the teachers just started to rush all their students out of the room, with them being more tolerant to heat. As they all rushed out the room to get the fresh air that they needed. Most of the students have to have ice packs on their head because they started to burn up. A couple of hours later, they started to wake up outside of a hospital room. As everything like that would have been normal, Inko and Hisashi would have been worried for Izuku, but that will change very soon. As the day came a couple of years later, Izuku being around about 7 or 8 years old, Izuku went to the quirk doctor once more to see if his quirk would have been developing very soon. "Come on, doc, give us a straight answer here. Is Izuku quirkless or not?" he said, the very raspy, quieted tone. "Well, we don't know. He commits heat and then he doesn't. And from our example, he says he's quirkless," they said, as Izuku started to get a little bit upset about this. But the doctor just said, "But it's inclusive. Again, we don't know. He has the extra joint, but for some reason his body starts to emit heat. We don't understand this," they said. "So then, he's useless," Hisashi said, as the doctor would have just nodded at this, with Hisashi grabbing Izuku by the arm, running out of the room and dragging Izuku along with him, while Izuku was sulking and a verge of tears. "I wasted 8 years of my goddamn life for this kid," Hisashi said in a very angered tone, as Inko came out of the room wondering what was going on. She went to the car to see Hisashi pugging Izuku, throwing him into the car, as Inko would have rushed over to Hisashi telling him what he is doing. Hisashi would have just replied saying, "I'm getting rid of this fucking filth, and we're making another kid that would actually concede us to be a hero. I'm not working ever again," Hisashi said, as Hisashi drove off, leaving Inko behind and Izuku in the backseat of the car. "Papa, where are we going?" "Shut up, you brat," Stay shut up and stay quiet, Asashi shouted at Izuku, as Izuku's eyes started to verge with tears leaking out of them. Izuku started to cry with Asashi just shouting louder, telling him to shut up and stop crying. Well, this just led to Izuku with more tears. As Asashi finally found an orphanage nearby, Asashi managed to grab Izuku by the hair, tossing him out the car, throwing Izuku right to the ground with the concrete stones, cutting Izuku's arms, legs, and knees up into little scrapes, turning into big gashes in Izuku's leg, with Izuku actually starting to cry even more, covered in his own blood and dirt. "See you later, you worthless dirt," Asashi said, putting the middle finger up to Izuku while driving off. "Papa," Izuku said, about on the verge of passing out, as Izuku was at the doorstep, just passing out, as one of the nuns of that little pre-area was actually just walking back to see a kid bloody beaten and bruised. She would have instantly rushed over to him, wondering if he was okay. "Izuku, he said, as the nun instantly rushed him inside, dropping the groceries, putting him onto the side with other nuns around the area, paying more attention to this, with them rushing to Izuku's need. "What's happening?" one of the head nerds said. "This kid just got left here bloody bruised and beaten. So I'm guessing this person's father was meant to be an arsehole," one of the nuns said. As through those couple of hours, Izuku would have been treated for all of his wounds, and more or less certainly healed from one of the nuns using her healing quirk. But it could only heal one of the gashes, so she managed to heal one of the deepest ones she could. Izuku woke up in the span of 3 hours, writhing in pain, with some of the pain being nullified because of painkillers. Izuku stood up, wondering where he was, but he couldn't stand up at all because of the writhing pain in his legs. The thing he did was collapse on the floor, making a loud thump, catching the eye of most of the actual people who were in the office at that time, as most of the nuns came rushing into Izuku's need, as they helped him back up to the bed. "Come on, Izuku, you have to stay in bed," she said, as the nurse put him back into bed easily. "Where am I?" Izuku said. "And how do you know my name?" he said. "Well, you were mumbling in your sleep, silly. Of course you would know your name that way, isn't it?" "Yes, it is," Izuku said, as Izuku's eyes started to go dimmer, dimmer, and dimmer, knowing that what his father did to him. His father left him for dead, Izuku said, in his mental state. "Come on, Izuku, what's wrong?" she said, as she just placed a hand on his hand. "Come on, you can tell me," she said. "Well, my father abused me and left me for dead after when he found out I was quirkless," he said, starting to break down into tears. "Don't worry, Izuku," she said, comforted to him. "No one in here is going to bully you for being quirkless. If they do, just ask me, okay?" she said, comforting him. As we actually do skip a couple of years until Izuku's around like 12 years old. Since Izuku moved into the orphanage, the other thing he's had off people was like the odd stare, odd insults, but most people are actually being really nice to him. Something that he wasn't used to, but he got used to it over time. As for the person who saved him, Mary was his god and grace, he was thinking. He was very thankful to her for actually saving his life and taking care of him and making him feel happy every single day when he was bullied. Izuku was walking back from his middle school one day as he saw a person being bullied outside of an alleyway, being pushed around side to side, like they were being forced into doing something. "Come on, just give us a little, pick me up," he said, patting the girl's hair. "Hey," Izuku shouted at them. "Leave her alone," he shouted again. "Huh?" one of the thugs said. "What do you think you're gonna do about it, eh?" "Leave her alone then," he said. "Do you think telling us to leave her alone is gonna help?" "No, but we can at least try though, can't I?" he said, as the girl tried to get past, but she was pushed back to the wall, being squished in between the concrete and the man. "Come on, girlie," strip naked for us, he said. No, I won't, she said in a very pallid tone, as her blouse was ripped off her body, as Izuku charged in at them, being ready to punch one of them, but one of them used their quirks on Izuku, knocking him into a wall. As Izuku was about to fall unconscious, as a sudden rush of energy came rushing into Izuku's body, with Izuku's muscles starting to spasm, ripping apart and reforming, as magical energy started to surge into Izuku's skin, starting to expand his body like some form of muscular man. As Izuku stood up feeling energized, like it wasn't him but it was him, as a surge of confidence started to come over Izuku, as Izuku felt very prideful and strong, as Izuku walked back over to the man, tapping him on the shoulder, punching him square in the face, knocking him back. Izuku looked down at his hands, seeing that he was grown, looked like a full man's size, as Izuku without thinking would have dodged the other guy's attack, punching him square in the jaw and knocking him clean out once again. As Izuku for the other last man, the man just grabbed his lackeys and ran for his life. Izuku just walked over to the young girl, asking if she was okay. Izuku kneeled down on one knee, helping her up. Yes, I'm okay, she said in a very worried tone. Do you need help? She said. She looked up to see a buff man with heat written off his body. She would have just said, "Excuse me, but what's your name?" "Oh, my name's Izuku Midoriya. It's very nice to meet you," he said. "So, what's your name?" My name is Momoyairozu, she said. As this is where we're going to leave the video off today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this 10-minute video. It's short as hell than usual, but I'm trying to do daily uploads this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, please tell me in the comment section down below like usual. And I'll see you all later. Peace out.